Today we're continuing a manhwa called I Stole the Male Lead's First Night. The previous chapters are in the description. Please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Ripley has tried absolutely everything to get rid of Zeronis, but he simply won't let her go. Already on the day of the engagement's announcement, she uses her last resort, faking an almost fatal injury. Ripley stares down from the balcony, dressed in her engagement outfit. This is it. When the time comes, she will jump into a bedsheet previously secured by Sylvia and then roll to the ground, where with the help of fake blood, she'll fake to be severely injured. And the time comes when the Duke's carriage rides into Ripley's residence. Sylvia is very worried, but Ripley is determined, with flashbacks of her past and her original world haunting her into action. Images of a smiling Zeronis go through her mind, but she ignores them, closes her eyes, and takes the leap. She makes it to the bedsheet safely, but then falls a bit hard from there to the ground. After confirming she's okay, Sylvia puts on the performance of a lifetime. Ripley thinks everything is going according to the plan, but then Zeronis comes running at full speed towards her. Ripley is surprised, but pretends to stay unconscious as Zeronis' hand trembles, scared to even touch her. As he orders for a doctor to arrive, he holds her hand tightly, still shaking. It is then that the thought finally crosses her mind. It seems like I've done a horrible deed against this person. Already in her room, the doctor, who is in on the whole ruse, treats the few scratches that were caused by the branches and tells Ripley that she did sprain her ankle quite a bit. Still, since she wants to make it seem as though she's crippled, she wraps up Ripley's head for good measure, laughing about how if they were discovered, they'd probably be beheaded for trying to trick a duke. The doctor seems very chill about all this. It is then that Zeronis walks in. He's extremely concerned about her condition, and after being told that she would be crippled and have a scar on her face, he sighs and said that's a relief. A relief? Ripley wonders. People would assume she's no longer qualified to be married, but he's only relieved that she's made it out alive. He is still concerned as he smiles at her, who is pretending to be asleep, and he tells her that he didn't know how he would have lived were she to have died. At that moment, Ripley finally understands. He honestly, truly loves her. Took her long enough. Because of this realization, we finally get a glimpse of what happened in her original world. Apparently, she's always been dense about others' intentions towards her, and once, the boyfriend of a friend of hers started texting her after they all hung out together, offering her some training weights she'd mentioned she was interested in. He was very insistent on delivering them to her area himself, and though she told him she'd rather get them when she saw her friend again, she finally gave in, not giving it much thought. She really thought it was nothing, so she didn't even tell her friend, thinking he'd definitely tell her himself. Big mistake. However, when they meet up to get them, he was once more insistent, but now about teaching her how to use them right, telling her he'd take her to the park to teach her. She refused politely, since it seemed like a bother and because her friend had been complaining about him being very busy lately. He was very suspicious about this comment, saying he was suddenly free, and she accepted his offer thinking he was only being kind. A similar incident took place at her university library, where the guy told her she can't really take a hint, and confessed he liked her, telling her he'd leave her friend to be with her. Past Ripley finally understood the situation and strongly refused, which caused a scene. Not soon after, her friend heard about it and went to confront her. Past Ripley tried to explain it was a misunderstanding, but her friend just cornered her, pointing out the library scene, the messages which she learned from scrolling through his phone, the secret meeting. Ripley didn't know what to say. She really thought he'd told her everything. He'd even texted her friend telling her he wanted to break up. Ripley couldn't even get a word in, and the now ex-boyfriend arrived trying to defend her, but her friend wouldn't have any of it. There was a huge scene and people all around started gossiping, even posting online about it. Without being able to say anything, Ripley became the one who stole the boyfriend to the eyes of everyone else. In the end, she was bullied left and right about it, with people leaving hurtful notes on her locker. She couldn't even go to school anymore. And so she was left with one lesson: don't covet the man of another woman. Which she didn't, at all. But because of this, she is now afraid to mess with the male lead of the story, because he technically belongs to Etoile. She doesn't want to go through that again. Our poor Ripley. Back in the present, Zeronis goes into Ripley's room to check on her once more. While she pretends to be asleep, he kisses her forehead and tells her he hopes she'll recover quickly and that she'll be the most beautiful bride. Ripley can't pretend she's asleep anymore and finally asks why he wants to marry her so badly, to which he smiles sweetly and says it's because she's his first. Ripley tries to argue that she's not as kind as he thinks and that she's a despicable woman who came in between a friend and her lover. She tells him her story, after which he instantly asks if she's bragging, because the only thing that happened is that she tried to distance herself from the guy, but he, like a moth drawn to a flame, kept on coming back to pester her. Still, Zeronis tells her that if she considers herself a villainess, then he will be her villain. Ripley keeps on insisting on not wanting to repeat the same situation, and thus he must stay away from her, to which he finally sighs and mutters that he can't understand her. Ripley thinks this is it. He's finally become tired of her. He's seen how vile she is, how she isn't who he thought she was. However, she is completely surprised when Zeronis tells her it was not her fault whatsoever. Ripley had only seen herself as the one to blame in the situation, and though she could have been more aware of what was happening, her actions held no malice at all. Zeronis tells her she is not to blame, and although she is moved because no one had ever told her those precious words before, she still insists that she can't be with him because she's not the female lead. Zeronis doesn't know why she uses those terms, but he still plays along, and tells her that if he's the male lead, as she says, that he will do whatever he wants and choose the female lead himself. She still insists on not being worthy, of only being a wallflower no one looks at. But Zeronis stops her, and looks at her sweetly, holds her hand and kissing its back, and tells her she is his beautiful and lovely female lead. Later that day, Etwell pays her a visit, and she cries her eyes out over Ripley's condition. She has come over with boxes upon boxes of gifts and fruits, and even a special ointment for scars with a secret recipe from her family. Ripley notices her friend is once again wearing the dress she wore last time, and that even though she's frugal with money, she still spent all of that on her. The guilt is too heavy for her, and she finally breaks down, apologizing to her and telling her she likes the Duke. Etwell is like, okay, but then she's totally confused when Ripley tells her he should have been with her. Ripley then tells her that she stole her path from her, but Etwell has a warm smile on her face as she explains the following. If everything had followed the original path, she wouldn't be here today with her, either because she wouldn't have been born, she would have stayed in the orphanage, or she wouldn't have had a single friend to talk to. But here she is, happy to have Ripley as her friend. There is no original, there is simply the present. With Etwell's words and noticing the love from everyone around her, Ripley has decided she will no longer be on the sidelines, pretending to be the Ripley character she possessed. She will actually be Ripley, live as her, and become part of this world she's in. So now, she has to figure out how to undo this whole fake injury mess to tell Zeronis she actually does want to get married to him. But first things first, she wants to play matchmaker between Etwell and Sir Wright, because if she's stealing the male lead, then she sure is pumpkin pie getting her on the second male lead. And so in her next visit, Ripley asks Etwell what her ideal type of man is like, getting suddenly worried that she might like icy, bad-tempered men, seeing how in the novel she fell for Zeronis so quickly. However, she is truly surprised when Etwell says her type are handsome men. Etwell sparkles as she stands by her decision, saying a pretty face will never change. It is then that we all learn why Etwell was so in love with Zeronis in the novel. Because he was hot. I mean, I can't really blame her, because a pretty face can do wonders, but like, anyone could have been her male lead as long as he was hot. Anyway, Ripley tries to create an opportunity for the matchmaking to take place, and so invites Etwell, who is very fond of the orphanage, and Sir Wright, whose family contributes a lot to the orphanage as well, to pay the establishment a visit and volunteer. Since Ripley's face is supposed to be injured and she can't really go around showing her face in case the Duke's men see her, she wears a mask for the occasion. However, the mask Sylvia gives her is a bit more eccentric than she would have liked. The children are fascinated by Ripley and the mask, and so they get along with her very well. Etwell, Ripley, and Sir Wright cook and tend to the children, and from time to time Ripley watches the other two from afar. fangirling about how well the encounter between them seems to be going. After the volunteer work is done, they all head to the sweets shop where Ripley and Sir Wright are extremely tired. Still, Ripley's wing girl job is not done, and she starts complimenting Sir Wright so that Etwall will like him more, to the point of even saying he's handsome to his face. Of course, this makes things a bit awkward for everyone except Ripley, so she starts talking about the kids in the orphanage and how well they all did with the volunteering, which gets Etwall and Sir Wright to start complimenting each other. Ripley is so happy. Everything is coming along together. Etwall and Sir Wright, Zeronis and her. But then, as soon as she gets home, a cane flies at her direction, and it belongs to none other than Zeronis, who sports a very dark expression as he mentions that she dodged that well, given that she was supposed to be injured to the point of almost being crippled. Oh boy. Zeronis tells her he has ears and eyes everywhere and knew about her outing. He takes no time in taking off the veil she wears, only to reveal that her face is not scarred at all. Finally, he asks her how she is suddenly healed. He is very cold as he questions her, and stares somberly at her as she tries to tell him that she recovered quickly with the help of some medicine. He is offended by her thinking that he would buy that, and tells her that it seems like he was mistaken, asking her if it was fun watching him be all heartbroken about her injury, or seeing him being so ready to give her the world if she asked. He grabs her arms and can't even look at her face as he tells her she deceived him, and once more, Ripley is unable to say anything. Oh my, the drama. Okay guys, we'll stop here for today. How will Ripley ever fix this? Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comment section, and subscribe to get the notifications as soon as the rest of the story is up. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one!